On the phone with us, we have Faith Baden and Kevin Baden, the mother and father of Cody Baden. Uh, we had Cody on a previous program telling us about the abuse that he received in the child welfare system, and I thought it would be good to have his parents on to tell us their story of how these children were taken from them. So, Faith, welcome. How do you tell me? How did you get involved with CPS?
Well, me and my first husband, we were still married, and I had 3 children by him, which was Mitchell, PJ, and Paul. Or I should say Mitchell, PJ, and Justin McBride. We were getting divorced because he was cheating on me left and right, and by this time, I met my husband, Kevin Baden, Sr. That would have been in 2001. I met him and I got together. I got pregnant with my son, Kevin. I was still filing for my divorce at the time because it took me over a year to get my divorce done. There was a lot of calling back and forth on both sides about, he had my son Mitchell and my son Paul for a while. He raised Mitchell. I raised Paul and Justin, and then Kevin and I had 2, which was Kevin Baden Jr. and Cody Baden. What it was, they told us over in Skidway that we had to move out of the house we were in. It was a 2-bedroom house. We gave the kids bedrooms, and we had to make a front room bedroom where during the day it was half and half. We moved out of that house. We moved into Turner, bought a nice home. It was one of those Sears homes that comes in on a train. The day that we moved into that house was the day she came up to my brother's house and stated that the school had reported us for Cody having an oozing sore on his foot. She said his clothes were dirty and his shoes weren't properly put on right. Then 2 weeks later, we had to go up to the doctor's office to give Cody some stuff to clear up his foot. That's when they gave us the cream for his foot for the first week. The second week is when they gave us the antibiotics. They would have gave us the antibiotic first and then the cream. Cody would have been totally healed within a week. But the day on November 7th, 2003, we went to court that morning. They didn't tell us they were taking our kids. All they did was they were in the process of taking them once we got to the courthouse. Meredith Harris told me to sit down when she come into the lobby area, told me that she had some bad news for me. I started crying. She told me that they took the kids from the school. Then from there, we went into a room with our lawyer and the prosecutor. The prosecutor took our lawyer outside of the room, had a few words with him, and then came back and told us that we was to pick 2 things out of 10 things they were using against us, and the main they had was 33, but they took it down to 10. We were threatened that if we did not accept at least 2 of the things on there and plead guilty on them, we'd never see our kids again. I feel like I was forced into it. We were lied to. After that, they let us have 5 visits with the kids for 5 weeks straight. We got sometimes a couple times a week, and other times it would only be 1 time a week. The last visit we had, they come in and told us that we weren't going to have no more visits with our kids. And we were taking in McDonald's, and we had gotten them stuff for their birthday and for Christmas during that time. They wouldn't allow the kids to have it, except for the McDonald's. We were in there talking to them about them coming home before Christmas, which they had no intentions on letting the kids come home. They didn't even hardly put nothing in line for us to work on.
Now, did you plead guilty in family court or criminal court?
That was in probate court.
So it was civil. You didn't get no jail sentence or probation or anything like that?
No.
Okay, so you pled guilty in family court. Um,
The judge asked us if we were forced to plead or not. We had to say no. But in truth, we was forced. We had a hearing that day. They had a bunch of people come in on the side of the kids, which was not towards Kevin and I. It was towards my ex-husband, Paul McBride, Jr. He fired his lawyer and refused to come into court, so they had a 50-mile pickup on him. From that day on, after we had our last visit with the boys, they got a hold of us the first day of May, had us write a letter stating our goodbyes to the boys, telling them it was all right to move on and that we would see them again once they were 18.
They wouldn't let us write our own.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us write our own letter the way we wanted it, because I had wrote the kids each a 4-page letter, and they had us make it simple, quick, and sweet. When we were at the adoption place, it also was, we found out that Cody was ready to go in for his back surgery, and my son Paul, they told him if he didn't have surgery on his heart, he had less than 6 weeks to live. And we were not able to be there for either boy.
were any services offered?
Not really. The only thing that we was offered, and we had to seek it out ourselves, was counseling with the pastor at a non-denominational church.
They had us do counseling with some people, and all they did was try to tell us how to beat the system.
Yeah. They come to our house once, and we had to meet them down in Saginaw once, and after that, there was nothing.
There were several incidences of abuse in this adoptive home. Tell our viewers some of this. And what was your reaction to your son, Justin's death? And just wanted to say on the behalf of both Dennis and I, we are truly sorry that you've had to go through this.
I found out about the adopted mother, Jessica. My son, Paul, he had contacted my mother-in-law and wrote her a letter, told her to get a hold of us, that Jessica had put him in jail and soon to go off to prison for supposedly molesting her 2 daughters. I can't remember which month it was that we got in contact, but that would have been back in 2007, I think it was, 2008. Well, no, it would have been 2007, because 2 years later is when Justin had made contact with us from Lansing. He was getting ready to go in the Marines. He was signing up the following morning, and he spoke to us for 3 hours on the phone. It started out at midnight. Justin told me that there was a lot of things going on in that household that he couldn't tell me until he got away from Jessica. He said that they were being really mean to him after his brother PJ had went to jail. He was in jail for 295 days before he got sentenced to prison. He got sentenced to prison. It would have been, I think, in December, the end of 2007, early 2008. And then it went from that. He called again, but to my mother-in-law, told him that he needed to know if we'd gotten the car that he asked us to get, because he rolled his van on a stormy day, and his adopted mother, Jessica, would not take and help him get his car fixed. And that he wanted me to be his sole beneficiary with him going in the Marines, because he was planning on going in for 8 years. He was going to be an electronic he was supposed to be working with computer stuff. He was going to be their computer builder and advisor and all that kind of stuff. And after that, not even a month to the day of when we got to talk to him the first time. We never got to talk to him the second time because my husband's mom forgot to call us and let us know he called. Shortly after that is when Shelby, our fourth-year, called me, which was a friend of the kids from Coleman. She called me and asked me what was I doing. I was on my computer, and I said, yeah, I was sitting there playing the game. I said, what's up? She's like, well, your kids' home is on the computer. She says you need to get on the Midland paper and go to the Midland Daily News as well as the front page because their house was broadcast right across the front page on the web page. It showed where there was a yellow tarp where Justin lay behind it on the driveway sidewalk area. And then it went into telling about what happened. At first, we didn't know it was Justin, but it stated that a 17-year-old was murdered. A 15-year-old was accused of it, and there was 3 15-year-olds in the house at the time. Listen, that it was you, Cook, her. Kevin and Tristan were 15. What did I go out and do? At first, I was so beside myself, I didn't know if to fight or to lay down and die. I got a hold of a bunch of lawyers. They kept telling me that if I wouldn't have lost my rights, that they could have sued the state of Michigan for wrongful death on my son and wrongful charges on taking my kids away. And the lawyer that we had that was supposed to stop that, we paid $2,500 to him. They paid him $100 after he had taken and talked to us and was working through everything that was going on at that point. They paid him $100 to stay there and use what he had to say that was positive for us against us. It was stated that no matter if we had made 100 mistakes 100 times over, that we didn't deserve to lose our kids. And they used that against us.
He said that we would probably fail.
And really, everybody that knew our family they were really beside themselves knowing that we lost our kids.
Stephen was the adopted boy that had murdered Justin. Jessica had adopted this boy also. I want to cut to a news clip of his sentencing.
But I hate you. I hate what you've done.
He killed one of his brothers and attacked other members of his adopted family, but that family says they still love him.
Today, 15-year-old Stephen Pribernow was sentenced after previously accepting a plea deal. ABC 12's Rebecca Trilch is live in our Tri-Cities newsroom with more from today's emotional court appearance. Rebecca?
Angie, Pribernow's plea agreement will eventually make him eligible for parole. It's a deal his family agreed to. Wearing an orange jail jumpsuit and shackles, 15-year-old Stephen Pribernow faced a Midland County Circuit Court judge charged as an adult.
Their bodies bear the marks of what this man did to them.
Investigators say Pribernow stabbed 3 of his brothers and stepfather at this Geneva Township home last August. 17-year-old Justin was killed in the attack.
Now, Faith, tell me, what about the funeral? There certainly was a funeral for Justin, and were you able to go to a showing?
The funeral,
I didn't see the funeral. We went to a showing.
yeah, the funeral, she had one of her cop friends call us after her and I got off the phone. That would have been Liz's kid. No, it was a male.
Who's she?
And he threatened us if we showed up at the funeral that we was going to be arrested and taken out of there. That he was doing her a favor by talking to me.
Really, what hurts me the most is my parents are his real parents and who he came out of, and yet Jessica let her family have more of a viewing and a funeral than they let his actual parents have.
One nice thing that they did do, even though I couldn't be there to see it, is they had a 21 gun salute for his military funeral,
In which all his ashes were given to Jessica. but in all reality, all his ashes should be with his real mother, Glenn Baden.
Yeah, we went to a showing. They really didn't have nothing there for us. They had one of those flyers of it was a poem. It had a picture of Justin standing next to a tree, and then on the other side, there was a picture of Justin, senior picture, in a white dress shirt and one in a red dress shirt.
The other two pictures on there were Justin's basketball pictures and Justin's football pictures from high school.
Yeah, that's all she had out there for us, and they had chairs sitting in a circle. He was in the coffin, dressed up in his dress greens, dress blues and white.
He was in his uniform.
They had a flag down at the foot of the coffin.
Because Michael could not get Justin his uniform as promised to Jessica, he ended up using one of his uniforms, which is what Justin was buried in.
We showed up there. The lady didn't come up right away. She come up off from the side. And I was standing there with my husband, Kevin, and we were there with my husband's family, Kevin. So was Shelby and a friend of hers, that was a friend of Justin's. We're all standing there with us. I was falling apart. You could see where his face was sweating. You know how they put the facial makeup on him? Yep. He had sweat coming out from under his hair. I touched his chest and felt that it was hollow, but I know with the embalming it should be. But I noticed his head was tilted instead of laying fully back. His chin was kind of in his throat area. And then when we got ready to head back to the house, my sister-in-law, Shannon, told me, she says, I didn't want to tell you on the exact minute, but she said Justin's throat was cut on both sides, which is in the autopsy and in the police report. Before we left there, TV5 come there to video our family. The lady inside that was doing the so-called sermon, she told us that they could not come into the funeral home, and if they did, they were going to call the cops and have them escorted off there. So we stood on the grounds outside and talked to them. That's when we met Kim Alanese and her mother, Judy Brown.
They were supporters of us from the beginning.
Yeah.
I literally had to drag her off the coffin because she tried to climb inside with Justin.
Yeah, when I seen him laying there, I totally felt dead inside. Like someone stabbed my heart.
When I saw Justin, I kind of swallowed my stomach. I kind of swallowed my heart in my stomach, thinking, wow, my brother's sitting there in more of like a wax form than his actual smile that I'd rather see every day than sitting there and watch him. Because the last memory I've had of him was him laying on the sidewalk in front of our front porch, sitting there, eyes rolled in the back of his head, bloodshot on the outside, and I could see his throat, how it was cut open. He was just laying there when they pulled me off the front porch to go to the ambulance.
A question that we have, Faith, is was there any ombudsman report on Jessica Pribernow's adopted home done? Can you give us the results of the ombudsman report?
Yeah, they said that there were 7 infractions that Midland County CPS had in their write-up. But it don't really go into no detail fully of what it states. They basically told us that they had proof, but they didn't give us the detail what the proof was.
7 infractions received by the adopted mother CPS didn't do anything.
How can CPS fault us and take our kids away when Jessica had supposedly 2 girls raped in her home, one dead, 2 almost dead? Why did she get away with murder in her home when if that would have happened in our home, we'd have lost our kids at that point?
How much money was Jessica getting from the state when adopting your children? With our calculations using the Michigan adoption calculator, we are coming up with at least $1,800 a month and perhaps the SSI.
And why would she take and be out in the community doing with the school and bragging about how much money she gets for the kids on adoption subsidy? And she would line them up and tell each one of the kids a story about who had what father, who had what parents, and this is why she was getting the money for these children. Yeah. Cody was on SSI disability from a young child, back from 6 months on until they took him. He never seen the money. He doesn't know if Jessica was getting it or not, but I would figure that she would be.
Every time the boys worked, Jessica took her money.
Yeah, she was getting $2,000 is what she wrote in the paper.
Well, another instance, recently I was working for my school, and within 2 checks I had $584, and I was only allowed to receive $100 out of that. She kept the rest and pocketed it.
There is hope for those who have had their children kidnapped by the state, hope of finding them again. Tell us a little about how you found your children.
Well, from day one when the kids were taken, I got on the computer and I was staying in touch with the Midland News, the Midland Topics. And from there, we went from the Midland News Topics to Morning Star to the Standish paper. We pretty much...
My uncle was a private investigator, and he taught us how to search for them.
Yeah. I had a couple reports that we did up on her, so I know who all her family is, every place she lived, every plate number she's got, her birth date, social security number, all of it. I tracked her down. Oh, yeah. I've had a lot of people on Facebook helping us. Just on my page alone. Yep. Just on my page alone, I had over 2,500 supporters statewide. And it's still growing right now.
We would never give up.
I want to thank you, Faith, for having the courage to phone in and come on our program. I've read this story and seen the documentation through and through, and I want to let you know that I have some friends in the Los Angeles area in the filmmaking business that I've turned this story over to, and I'm really hoping we can get it into a Lifetime movie and just show the world what Michigan DHS has done to your family to tear your family apart, what they have done to you as parents and what they have done to your children. Thank you for coming on. Maria, this case here, well documented, but I'll tell you something, it's just, I hear this all the time. The same stories from different people. It's just a never-ending battle that I hear.
It seems like with these types of cases that there may be some variations in the story and how it goes, whether it be through CPS or the family courts, but unfortunately it always ends up the same, is that good parents are actually losing their children to people who are less fit to take care of them. And as you know, 70% of children who die, according to their own records, die in foster care, which is it's an unacceptable number.
Well, it's a system driven by money. As long as a child is adopted foster care, the federal funding is flowing. If a child is returned home and services are offered in home, the federal funding stops. This is nonsense. It needs to stop. Families are being torn apart, and it's not good on our children and not good on society as a whole.